People always ask for something new. Renewal is inevitable. The Substance is the latest film from writer-director Coralie Farge, who did Revenge. This stars Demi Moore as Elizabeth Sparkle, a celebrity that had Academy Awards, Emmy Awards, any kind of awards you could ask for, she had. She was on top of the goddamn world. She was in so many great films. She was in so many great projects. She had magazine coverage, all kinds of coverage across all forms of media. But nothing can last forever. Now she's been doing workout videos, and even though she's an aging starlet, she's still able to do her sweating to the oldies thing. That's really what the videos will remind you of if you watch it, and if you are around my age, aka almost older than dirt. But let's just say that, well, things take a little bit of a dip when her agent, Harvey, played by Dennis Quaid, says, well, you know, people are always looking for the fresh young thing and talking about aging and everything, and after 50, it just stops. What stops? Well, according to Harvey, the usefulness for women in any form of media. No, we can't actually appreciate women aging gracefully and still able to provide a ton of great performances for movies, theater, or TV. It doesn't matter. No, oh, you've hit this age now, fuck you, we're tossing you away for the hot young thing. Hollywood has always done that. It's still bullshit, because there are so many great women that have performed so well into their 40s, 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s, still captivate, still have that tremendous persona, that tremendously captivating presence that they've always had. And everybody is beautiful in their own way, and that is something that basically Elizabeth is trying to, just help people understand. Because age or not, she still feels that she deserves to have this celebrity status. And then after a certain incident, well, she is given the opportunity to possibly get back some of that celebrity status and some of that spark that she had. That sparkle, as it were. Jingle, jangle, sparkle. If you get that reference, I love you guys. Now, how is she going to be able to do this? Well, by being asked one simple question. Have you ever dreamt of a better version of yourself? Younger, more beautiful, more perfect? There's a certain compound that unlocks your DNA and releases a better version of yourself that's just more perfect in exactly everything that you want. And it's the perfect balance. 7 days for you, 7 days for your younger self. And you just have to remember one simple thing. You are one. Demi Moore decides to take charge of her life and take part in this trial with this compound. And of course, naturally, because it's a horror movie, horrific consequences eventually end up bubbling up. And then really bubble up. And then just absolutely ascend to the goddamn heavens with the bubbling up and the insanity and everything. And give Coralie Farge every bit of money that she wants for her next goddamn project. And then for the next project, and then for the next project. Fuck it. Keep this woman employed. Let her do what she wants. Let her go goddamn crazy, because after Revenge, that I liked, I had a couple issues with, but I appreciated what she did. She did a certain twist on the revenge horror. I saw a lot of hype about this particular movie. Film festival coverage, movie critics that I trust, A Man of the Jedi, did praise this quite a bit. And the fact is, I kept seeing a trailer because I've seen a lot of fucking movies in theaters, and I kept seeing stuff like it's an amazing masterpiece. Dennis Quaid is great in a supporting role. Ray Liotta was supposed to be part of this, but that wasn't exactly going to work because Ray Liotta died. Dennis Quaid is not dead, despite the fact he was in the Reagan movie recently. So he probably shot himself in the goddamn foot as far as credible films after that, but nevertheless. So you have talk of Demi Moore delivering the performance of her life, and she does. She absolutely fucking does. Apparently, she was nervous about doing nude scenes at her age and everything, even though she still looks fucking incredible. At 61, 62 years old. I just want to say she's aged very gracefully. She's, been in a lot of some projects that have not hit all that well, but she's been in so many projects for so many goddamn years. It's going to be interesting to see how she was going to do in a horror project like this. And her younger self is played by Margaret Qualley, who is in Sanctuary, Kinds of Kindness, and is tremendous. She's the daughter of Andie MacDowell, and you could tell. You can absolutely tell. And actually, there's kind of a age comparison between Demi Moore and Andie MacDowell, who still looks great in her, in like her older years, I just want to say. I mean, she hasn't really aged one goddamn bit. And that's something that's kind of talked about in this particular movie, the insane amount of beauty standards heaped upon women. It's a little bit of commentary about how it's heaped upon some men too. But yes, as people get older, they are seen as disposable, which isn't all that great. And that's just not a good thing to have. I mean, everybody ages. We all age. We ain't getting out of this place alive. Just want to say, everybody eventually dies, as Lance Archer said. But from the very beginning, we have, the shots of Demi Moore not, understanding why she's being dropped, feeling cast to the side, isn't sure she wants to take part in this trial, and then she does. And man, when that body horror kicks in, I'm trying to keep this as spoiler-free as possible. When that body horror kicks in, holy shit, Coralie Farge, I'm pretty certain I probably screwed up pronouncing her name in the Revenge review, and I would like to apologize for that. But she understood the assignment. Demi Moore understood the assignment, and Margaret Qualley understood the assignment. And Dennis Quaid, he factors into the film in a little bit of a narrative, but really it is about this two-headed dragon. Demi, Margaret, they are great. Demi was nervous about doing nude scenes. Margaret had no issues about doing nude scenes, made her feel more comfortable. And that's great. That's great shit. Because what I like about it is that it didn't shy away from showing the nudity. And don't get me wrong, I did not complain one goddamn bit. They're both beautiful women, and we can appreciate that. We absolutely can. Margaret is just great and charismatic and captivating and very dark. And Demi Moore also does just, I cannot sum up properly how great she is in this. I fucking love this. I thought that this movie is it's not just one of the best horror movies of the year, it's one of the best films of the goddamn year. Yes, it's a bonkers premise. It's ridiculous, but it is handled, at least until we get later into the film, where it just goes absolutely tits up batshit insane. But it manages to just nail everything perfectly, and you can see the pained expressions on Demi's face as she, as she's dealing with this and going through this process of just trying to recapture, just grasp that youth a little bit. Kind of reminded me a little bit of the commentary in X with, Pearl and Maxine. This has just turned up to absolute insane levels. And Coralie Farge, once again, absolutely tremendous in this. The pulsing soundtrack is fucking great. There are just so many neat little nuances, so many great uses of symbols and everything during the process, because this process basically is you have to switch out, no exceptions, 7 days exactly. Not a minute sooner, or not a minute later, not an hour later. Otherwise, horrific consequences. Being a body horror and being what Cronenberg has tried to do for the last little bit, I'll take this over Crimes of the Future way, more, 10 out of 10 times. And the substance is just fucking great. And the voiceover of the guy talking about the substance and everything, and the way the delivery process is done. You don't find out how this stuff's actually delivered, who's doing it, what's going on. It's just basically an allegory for people being, wanting to capture that youth again, but paying the ultimate price. And it's just so perfectly told. It's impossible not to put... If this film is not in my top 5 by the end of the year, I'll be amazed. It's top 5 now. I'll say that much. Because this film is fucking incredible. God damn it. Demi deserves Oscar consideration. She won't get it. Margaret deserves Oscar consideration. She won't get it because the Oscars tend to hate horror movies. But this is great shit. The camera work's fucking tremendous. The use of blood. The use of body horror effects. There are some prosthetics that will stick in my... There are scenes in this movie that will stick in my mind. Now, have there been crazy movies done before by French directors? Yes. People will point to High Tension. People will point to others. But Coralie Farge finds a way to balance this, a bit of satire, because there are some dark comedic moments, and there are just some moments where you can see the pain on Margaret's face, on Demi's face, and just the balance that these two were able to achieve in their roles, fitting considering they are the older and the younger versions of each other. Remember, you are one. Whatever happens to one can affect the other, and that's just a great bit of social commentary. It is absolutely fucking incredible. I loved it. I had a great goddamn time with it. And there are other people in the movie as well. But really, it's just about these two women. It is fucking goddamn great. I'm going to get into spoilers because I want to talk about some of the good stuff, but really, you need to check this out in theaters as soon as you can because it is really fucking good. 3, 2, 1, and spoilers. So, basically, we start off with Demi Moore doing her workout video stuff, but then she ends up getting, released from her contract with Harvey because Harvey is eating this food. I do want to point out the camera work, by the way. It's almost like 35 millimeter, the way they're shooting it. It's almost oval-like, like we're looking through the eye of the It Came From Outer Space, space alien. And they shoot stuff well. There's a great use of color, a great use of music, a great use of long shots down hallways. And Demi Moore is talking to Dennis Quaid. Dennis Quaid's doing his eating stuff. There's a lot of gross stuff of eating, and that factors into the film a little bit later. We actually open with a shot of an egg being injected and then another yolk going out. That's something, that is symbolic that will come back to play a little bit later. And then, he's talking about this and talking about all this, age stuff, but he doesn't want to release her outright. He wants to be a sleazy jackass. So, basically, she's panicked. She's upset. She's driving a car. She sees a billboard of her being taken down, like some toothpaste ad that she did. And basically, she ends up getting hit in a car accident. And she's checked out by the doctor. Shockingly, besides maybe a few cuts or whatever, she's fine. She's absolutely fine. This nurse stays behind because the doctor's like, hey, my wife's a huge fan, but wait, sorry, I got an emergency. She's crying. The nurse is checking her out. Wait, I thought you said everything was fine. It's like, no, you're a perfect candidate. I mean, you're in perfect health. And it turns out this particular nurse is tied into the substance. And basically, he gives her this flash drive thing with this phone number on the back. And you can tell it's a movie because 555 is, 3 of the numbers there. But she, looks at it, decides, no, I don't want to do this. I don't want to do this or whatever. But then she sees the fades, all the stuff I explained, all the stuff that was explained in the trailer. You just got to remember, you are one. And it's a complicated process because you have to basically call a number. You give your address. You go to this particular address. You get a key card that you scan. You get into this door, this little hallway, this little storage thing, in this desolate neighborhood. And it won't even open all the way. You got duck under. And that's a bit symbolic right there because, somebody too old, they might have difficulty doing that. You abuse it, you might have difficulty getting through the door to get what you want. There's this beautiful, P.O. box, collection there. It's sterile. Scans the card, gets the stuff, and basically there's an activator, and it says discard after single use. Remember that. And then there's stuff. It's food, other self, and basically it's little tubes. This does not look like tubes. What I'm doing. This does not look like that. Somebody's gonna try to gift that if they hate me, but there's other stuff there's tubes. You basically. Demi Moore ends up doing this and ends up shedding her skin, so to speak, as the nurse checked out her back. And out pops Margareter. Now, she's seen kind of as a shell, but really what it is Margareter gets born. And let me just say again, Demi Moore, doing these nude scenes, still looks great. Still looks great. And I can understand because of the insane beauty standards why somebody might be cautious about that. She shouldn't have been. And it's ridiculous that people have to be cautious about that. But Margareter shows up and she's Sue. She's a younger version of herself. Even though her name's Elizabeth, there you go. So basically the idea is she sews up the back, Demi Moore's back, and there's this icky feeling about it. I loved it. There were points where I was like, ew, the needle part. I don't like needles. I don't like needles. If I get vaccines or I get shots, I have to look away, and then they'll say we're done. That was it, But in my head, if you're afraid, this movie might make you squirm a little bit. But she's sewing up the back, and then Sue, basically she is living Elizabeth's life, so to speak, coming up with her own workout stuff. Gets in this freaking bodysuit or this workout swimsuit thing. Margareter. Good grief, good God. Me, oh my, down on the bayou. My goodness, she looked great. But I do want to point out, by the way, Sanctuary was a tremendous role for her, and she absolutely nailed that. And I can see why people praise her performance. But she gets hired by Harvey, and she's seen as a hot young thing. But again, that's 7-day period. So once that's done, you have to get yourself ready before the food dries up. You have to get yourself ready, and then you get back to your old self. And at first, it's fine. And basically, Sue tells Harvey, "Hey, I got to take care of my sick mother. Or I got to do some stuff or whatever. So every other week, I got to be away." That's fine. Obviously, that's not how it's going to end up being. And then Sue ends up giving back to Elizabeth. Elizabeth is realizing, okay, this is a little bit weird, but okay, it's all right. And then there's a point in the movie. There's like stuff about food, like there's stuff about like eating and everything, feeling like you can eat and eat and eat. But remember, you are one, so anything you eat could affect your younger self. Now, the workout videos are going great. Sue's stardom is skyrocketing, and Elizabeth is getting a little bit annoyed because even though they're one, Sue's kind of becoming her own goddamn person to an extent, kind of becoming greedy, egotistical, youth, consuming, not realizing, respecting your elders, and also the fact, oh yeah, you are just an extension of this person. And then there's a point in the movie where, there's like the stuff where you take spinal fluid out and you can, like a spinal tap thing. And as long as you don't take too much, then you're okay. And that's a way to, keep the body moving, keep the body youthful. And then there's a point where she goes out partying. She's dressed in this leather bodysuit. What? Fine. Totally fine. She looked great. Sorry. I'm so sorry. But she ends up partying a little bit too long and decides to have sex with a guy she brought home and takes another shot out of Elizabeth when it's past her time. The food's crinkling up. Instead of just telling the guy, hey, let's do it another time, instead of respecting the balance, she doesn't. And she takes that out, and then certain things start going. Elizabeth notices that one of her fingers is starting to rot because her younger self is taking too much from her. Like, you give too much of yourself to be youthful. What would you give? You'd literally give everything. She starts to give everything, essentially. Sue starts to become more greedy, gaining more fame, takes more and more stuff, and keeps, staying at longer and longer and longer. And Elizabeth is trying to get the balance respected, calls a number and says, you need to remember, you are one. If you want to stop, if you'd like to stop, you can stop, but things can't go back to what they were. You will be what you are now. Like, you'll be eventually a hollowed out husk. Husk, as the berserker John Nord once said. She also, when she went to the hospital, or got out of the hospital after the car accident, ran into an old friend of hers, I believe Peter, I think was his name, an old classmate. Oh, you haven't changed a bit. You're still the most beautiful woman in the world. And she almost goes on a date with the guy. But she ends up kind of really freaking out because she's upset at Sue. She can't control this younger version of herself. And Demi Moore just has this point where she rubs this makeup on her face. She's doing all of this and just rubbing her face and just going nuts. And it's great scene. And we get more body horror stuff because her back's starting to get fucked up. She's starting to get more drained. She doesn't go on the date. We don't see anything more from that guy. That's kind of a shame she ghosted him. But that means she could have just said, I don't feel well. Please, let's just rain check it. I promise I'll make it up to you. And even if she didn't, it is what it is. That doesn't end up happening. Sue is offered the opportunity to host a New Year's Eve show. But of course, switching the weeks on and off gets a little bit difficult. Gets a little bit, too much for Sue. So she decides, I'm just going to, basically drain everything out of... I'm going to try to drain everything out of my older self. But there was a gift that Dennis Quaid's Harvey left Elizabeth. It was a French book. And remember, there's stuff about making, eating too much food affecting your younger self. All that. The foods that you eat start to affect you in different ways, especially as you get older. I found that out. There was a point where Sue was working out and started to feel a bubble, like, something was on her body. She went and dug it out. It was a chicken. It was a drumstick. So all this stuff's starting to come home to roost. Her greed is starting to really, really piss off Elizabeth. So Elizabeth decides to just make a whole bunch of food and everything and eat all this stuff and do all this and basically poison herself to stop this whole thing, to teach Sue a lesson. And then he gets absolutely batshit because Sue decides to drain basically almost every bit of life force out of Elizabeth. And also she had built this like almost fortress of solitude, this secret hidden passage where there was this hollow part in this bathroom, between this bathroom and this hallway, wall, where you could store your younger self and your older self. And she decides to store Demi Moore, and Demi Moore is not doing all that well, basically, because she's all that husk. And Sue's taken over her life. She's going to have all these great things, but then unfortunately, the juice runs out. And Elizabeth starts to stir and everything. Even though she's almost dead, she's starting to stir. She is ready to basically, like stop this whole goddamn process. She calls, decides that she wants to stop the thing. They send her a termination kit. And meanwhile, she's checking for all this stuff. She had to go get the termination kit, crawling under that goddamn door, stooping when she barely can walk, looking like a freaking drained hunchback. And she drags Sue's body out, is going to terminate her, and then realizes, no, you need to live. Live, damn it, live. So she can't do the termination thing. And then Sue comes back to life. And Sue beats the shit out of Elizabeth. I mean, just beats the total shit out of her. Destroys her, beats her up, does all this stuff. It's incredible. It's insane. Beats up Demi Moore's, drained body. I mean, I think it was Demi Moore in prosthetics, so I'm not actually sure. Great prosthetics regardless. But Sue just wants to get to that New Year's Eve show, and everything's going great. And then, unfortunately, she starts to fall apart. She's falling apart. Her teeth are falling out. And she decides, I'm going to go home really, really quickly, because apparently she just lives right over there. I don't understand how that happens. But she decides to use the rest of the activator that you're supposed to discard after a single use. So they're all waiting for her to get back for this New Year's Eve performance. I'm skipping over some things because you really need to check out some of this stuff. And the movie's 2 hours and 20 minutes long. It's impossible to cover everything. But she decides to inject herself with this and release a better version of herself because her teeth are falling out. Well, the version she releases is an amalgamation of mutations, Demi Moore's head on the back, and Margaret Qualley, and just all this mutated stuff. It's insane. It's absolutely insane. Oh my God, what the fuck? Coralie Farge, what is wrong with you? I love you dearly, but my God, you're insane, but I love you for it. And then she takes a picture, or cuts out the face off of Demi Moore's giant painting that she had made of herself, and puts it over her face, puts lipstick on, all that, and stumbles out into the goddamn night, and then goes and sees goes to see the performance play out. She goes down the hallway. She imagines people greeting her in this condition, but of course she's imagining stuff. She gets on the stage and she's a monster, and all this crazy stuff's going on. People are freaking out. Dennis Quaid freaking out. All this insanity. People are trying to beat up this monster. One cuts off the head. A head regrows. It's nuts. And then the arm falls off and blood sprays. This is like Evil Dead 2013, only really good and not shit like that. And blood spraying all over. And this just before it's like, I'm me. I'm still me, or whatever. I'm still me. Because that's how the beauty standards are in Hollywood, and all this stuff's going on, the blood spraying all over the hallway on the camera lens. And then she falls in the goddamn street, bursts, Demi Moore's head forms in a little blob, and crawls to her star on the Walk of Fame. Because that was something they cut to when they showed the egg stuff. Everything was good. And then we showed some earlier things. Like, we showed some people taking pictures of it, but then we showed a little bit later starting to crack, the foundations getting worn. A guy spills a burger where ketchup gets all over the star, bit of a, thing for a shot we see at the end. And Demi Moore's face, blobby face, goes over there. She's soaking all this stuff in, all the star stuff. Everybody loves her. And then she fades away. And then somebody comes in and scrubs the goddamn thing away. And that's it. That's how you get rid of that. That's how you wrap up the substance. And I fucking loved it. I loved it. A+. 5 stars. I can't go higher than 5 stars because I'm not Dave Melty Melts. But 5 stars, one of the best films of the goddamn year. Let me know your thoughts in the comments. Like, share, subscribe, Twitter handle in the description. I'm John Ritland. I'll see you soon.